All right, golfers, let's take a look at Bill Murray's golf swing. So whenever we're looking at a celebrity golf swing, we're gonna look at kind of how their matchups fit together to kind of create the handicap level that they're at. So Bill's about a 7 handicap, and we're gonna use this video to discuss kind of steeps and shallows and how these matchups work. So when we look at his backswing, we will see when we get to the top of the swing, it's kind of a classic. He's lifted his arms and gotten the club across the line. Hasn't rotated his lower body very much, but he's got a pretty good shoulder turn, and he's a 7 handicap, so he's more or less functional. But this particular shot, we're gonna see wasn't very good. We're gonna see that he semi tops it, and we're going to look at the balance of this steep and shallow thing. So as he's coming down, because he didn't rotate his lower body very much, and because the arms did more of a lift instead of maintaining their width, you'll see that when he then does a good job of turning his hips to start the downswing, because he didn't turn them very much in the backswing, you'll see that that tends to get things on a steeper path. So when he gets to about lead arm parallel, you can see how vertical the shaft is and how far out it is towards the golf ball. For a lot of golfers, the club would be going more through the arm, the bicep, kind of in this area, pointing in the direction of the golf ball, and you'll see his is more vertical. So we know that he's in a steep position. He's going to have to do some things to shallow it out. That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So from there, if all we did was we took a look at this impact position, we'd say that there's some pretty good things. You can see some body rotation, you can see some good lead arm structure with the left arm, right arm is underneath. But because of where he was going, we know that there's some balance options or some room for improvement. Now, from the face-on view, we're going to see how he has some of these compensations. We'll circle back to this down the line here in a second, but real quick, from the face-on view, we see he gets to the top of the swing where he's narrowed or kind of lost some of the width of his arms. That's a big steepening move, and he's come across the line. You'll see there's that nice rotation move, but we know from the down the line that this club is in a steep position here. So he's going to have to do some things to shallow it out or risk coming in too steep. The major thing that he does from this view to shallow it out is for an iron, he leans a little bit back or hangs back, which tends to err on getting him a little thin. The other steepener that he does is now, if we look at over here, the distance from the golf ball, a more vertical posture is shallower and a more bent over posture is steeper. And you'll see compared to where he got set up, he moves a good deal away from the golf ball, essentially getting himself more vertical. So those are the two big ways that he balances out the steep arm movement, tilting back and leaning back. And that's one of the reasons why he'll tend to err on getting a little bit more low point issue or thin contact. He's got a little kind of chicken wing and scoop that helps narrow things so that the steep action of the club isn't going to slam into the ground. He can kind of pull up on it to help control that low point, but it tends to create a real narrow bottom of the swing where the club timing has to be perfect. So imagine he's got pretty good short game in order to get to 7, but his ball striking, especially his low point control with an iron, could be improved upon. Now let's learn from one of his good shots. So I'll pull up another down the line, and we'll take a look at what might have changed during that one swing. Okay, when you're trying to understand your matchups, it's really helpful if you can be a detective and study the feedback you get. So here we have a particular shot where if I jump forward ahead, you'll see, man, that thing was a shot of beauty. Hit it to tap in birdie range. But let's see why. What might have enabled this to be a better situation for him. First of all, he's sitting just in the first cut of the rough, so the ball is sitting up, which means low point is not that big of an issue. And second, we've got a ball slightly below his feet. So what we'll see is this ball slightly below the feet actually complements or works better with a steeper downswing path. Now, it also, because the slope is angled somewhat this way, I'm exaggerating it for your purposes of being able to visualize it, it helps encourage him staying a little bit more over the ball, removing one of his shallowers, but also one of the big reasons why he tended to top some of these tee shots. So here you'll see his head doesn't back up quite as much because it would be harder to back up the hill than it would be on a flat piece of ground. Where here he might have been trying to swing a little bit harder, and that backup move appears to be part of his power source. You can see how by going a little bit further back, he tops the ball, where here the slope helps him cover it or stay more kind of closer to the position that he set up for. So if you are trying to decode your own swing and you look at the contact pattern, or you look at the overall feedback, do you do better with downhill lies, uphill lies, ball below your feet, ball above your feet? What does it look like on video? If you can learn how to read that feedback, you can learn how to be your own coach, and you can learn how to prioritize what you need to work on, just like we can see from here, some pretty obvious things that Bill could work on if he wanted to improve his game.